only important one. And if we fail, which is why he hated secession, then it fails. This grand idea that was born 7 years ago. But those ideas are what I'm talking about, you know. And I just hope that we can find a way to, and I'm sure that the Constitution Center can do this, can help do this, is to broaden our appreciation of that specific body of ideas and how it's enriched American life.
Well, that's exactly what we're going to do, a campaign for the Enlightenment and the American idea and the Declaration and the Constitution. And it is inspiring to see how the three of you, we didn't meet before the panel, coming from very different perspectives, are all committed to the American idea. And you share that perspective even as you disagree vigorously about the ideals of liberty, equality, and democracy that make it up. Melody, I think, why don't you have the closing thoughts on liberty? And Frederick Douglass says the Constitution is a glorious liberty document. When he's forbidden to learn how to read, he feels like a new blow has enslaved him, and learning to read, he says, gives him a liberty he couldn't have known. And indeed, Black intellectuals throughout history have read these classical works that you all should read too, and fought for liberty. How would you tell the liberty story?
Well, when you were quoting Douglass, there was a video that went quickly through my mind's eye. I thought about my father, my uncle, my grandfather, you know, men who all actively enlisted and went into the military to fight for these ideas. That was an act of faith and belief in the promise of liberty, the promise, the aspiration of equality. I thought about newly freed slaves who one of the first things they did was to open savings accounts. That is an aspirational idea. That is a belief in the promise and the idea of liberty, of equality, of justice, of more, something more that's out there. I think about some of the young people in another part of my life that I work with who were, some of them in foster care. If you don't know how horrible the foster care system is, please understand how bad it is. Juvenile justice system, homeless, you know, all of these things, but who have come together, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them, to articulate a view of their role in American society, in the American community, in the view and their vision of how they can contribute to America moving forward and the responsibility they have to this country. These are all instances of individuals who must have faith in this idea of liberty, of freedom, of the responsibilities and the rights that come with it. And I think that all of those are examples for us and rationales for us to believe that we can and must continue to fight, as again, to close the delta between what is being experienced and the idea, the document, the documents, the values that we say are central to self-government and to the American principles and values and ideals.
Opening up savings accounts with newfound liberty is the most inspiring expression of faith in the American idea that one could possibly have. Charlie, why don't you send us out? You're supposed to finish, and you so powerfully have defended why Americans should be grateful for our exceptional First Amendment freedoms. Why, as an immigrant, do you believe that Americans should continue to preserve, protect, and defend the American idea?
Because it's the best idea that there is. There are very few people, and again, I say this with no animosity whatsoever toward that country, but there are very few people right now who are lying in bed thinking, if I get a chance, I really want to move to Portugal. There's a reason that this country is the beacon. And some of it, of course, is its economic prosperity. But then you have to ask, why is that economic prosperity there? I don't think it's just because America has magic soil. I think it's because the way it's governed and the way that it's built is conducive to freedom and to an expression of human nature. And that, we didn't really talk too much about the Constitution, but that, by the way, is why the Constitution survives and ought to survive, because it understands human nature. The French revolutionaries didn't understand human nature. They tried to remake it. The Soviet Union didn't understand human nature. The Nazis didn't, nor did the Communist Chinese. But the American founders did understand human nature, and they understood that it didn't change. And when you combine a constitution that accounts for human nature and fractures power, and a declaration that sets those aspirations up, so if people do lie in their home at night thinking, if I could move somewhere, it would be America, then you have this idea, which is the best idea of all of them, and it's why, 240-something years later, we're all sitting here at the National Constitution Center praising that document.
It's such an important reminder that we must continue our discussion by focusing on the values of the Constitution, including federalism, separation of powers, an independent judiciary, a Bill of Rights, and the view of human nature on which it rests. We will do that for the rest of our time together, but for inspiring all of us to defend the American idea, please join me in thanking our panelists. Today's episode was produced by Lana Ulrich, Samson Mastashari, and Bill Pollack. It was engineered by Advanced Staging Productions and Bill Pollack. Research was provided by Samson Mastashari, Cooper Smith, and Yara DeRese. Please recommend the show to friends, colleagues, or anyone anywhere who's eager for a weekly dose of constitutional illumination and debate about the American idea and more. Sign up for the newsletter at constitutioncenter.org/connect. And always remember that the National Constitution Center is a private nonprofit. We rely on the passion, the generosity, and the engagement of people from across the country who are inspired by our nonpartisan mission of constitutional education and debate. Support the mission by becoming a member at constitutioncenter.org/membership, or give a donation of any amount to support our work, including the podcast, at constitutioncenter.org/donate. On behalf of the National Constitution Center, I'm Jeffrey Rosen.